So, whatever happened to that classic Universal monster movie from 1954, the extremely popular and memorable 3D horror film Creature from the Black Lagoon? Let's find out. Movies,
Music and monsters.
Danger, danger.
Hey my friends, Dan Monroe here from Movies, Music, and Monsters. Oh boy, Creature from the Black Lagoon. I certainly wasn't old enough to see this classic monster movie back in the day, but from speaking with a lot of fans who were around when this film originally came out, according to them, if you were growing up in the 1950s, there was only one universal monster, the Creature from the Black Lagoon. Dracula and Frankenstein hadn't been released for a television broadcast yet, so when it came to seeing monsters in the theater on the big screen, this was it. And I do remember actually seeing this for the first time in the mid-1970s on television when they actually broadcast it in 3D, with those goofy little red and blue lenses. And being like 7 years old at the time, I specifically remember that was pretty darn cool, even though original audiences were viewers with gray polarizing filters, very similar to the type of glasses that you would wear today, believe it or not. Either way, a classic film with a classic monster, certainly not forgotten all these years later, I can tell you that. So, grab your riverboat, your harpoon gun, and your favorite underwater aquatic beastie with a bucket of stale popcorn, and let's dive in. Yes, the Creature from the Black Lagoon. This one always scared me when I was just a wee little Remco toy.
You're still a wee little Remco toy.
Now, to understand the full scale of this classic monster movie, we gotta go back, way back when producer William Allen was attending a dinner party during the filming of Citizen Kane, who was approached by a Mexican cinematographer who told him about a mysterious myth of a race of half-fish, half-human creatures living in the Amazon River. So Allen went off and wrote some story notes, simply titled The Sea Monster. Then about 10 years later, using the concepts of Beauty and the Beast as his inspiration for the story, sprinkling in elements of the Lost World about scientists heading into an unknown area in search of mysterious creatures, until in December 1952, American television and film writer Maurice Zimring, or Zim for short, expanded these notes into an actual script treatment, which was then later rewritten into a concept called The Black Lagoon.
The Black Lagoon sounds more like a Wonderful World of Disney nature documentary.
It was a great idea. All they needed was a creature. It really helps when you're making a monster movie,
Like all Lost in Space needed was Dr. Smith.
Believe it or not, 3D films during this time were certainly not mainstream, but popular nonetheless, following the success of the 3D film House of Wax in 1953. American film and television director Jack Arnold, who directed Universal's previous science fiction film, It Came from Outer Space, in 3D, was hired to direct this film in the same format. Well, that certainly explains why the hands and fingers on the creature were extra long to bring out the 3D effect.
That, and he was also a fantastic concert pianist.
This film literally issued in a brand new age of monster making. I mean, think about it. Without the Creature from the Black Lagoon, would we ever have gotten Alien or Predator or several of the Outer Limits monsters? Well, maybe not. Would we ever have gotten this classic shot from the original Jaws if it weren't for this shot from Creature 20 years earlier? Certainly, those films owe a debt of gratitude to this film.
Fun fact, The creature was really the Gorn's grandfather from Star Trek.
No doubt, but I always felt a little bit bad for the creature. I mean, after all, the Black Lagoon was his home, and here comes this group of interlopers, Amazons, squatters, tromping around his territory. I would probably act the exact same way if it were me and somebody started swimming around in my Black Lagoon.
Certainly explains why you get so upset when your wife knocks on the door while you're in the bathtub doing who knows what for hours.
I didn't hear that.
Now, even though there were other 3D films produced in the past, this was the very first film that was ever shot in 3D underwater, with two different interlocking cameras filming the action from slightly different perspectives. So, in theaters, the film projectors had to be extremely precisely synchronized, and they would overlap the images, and when the audience members put on their polarized lenses, the effect of glorious 3D would literally jump right off the screen into their buckets of stale popcorn. Julia Adams, or Julie as she was known on the set, was one of the very first people to be hired for this production. Not that she really had all that much of a choice. Back in those days, the studio would simply assign an actor to a film, and even though she wasn't completely thrilled, at first, to be doing a monster movie, she really began to enjoy the role. Richard Carlson was also cast, who was also the star of It Came from Outer Space. He made quite a career at playing scientific heroes back in the day, which was a bit different from previous horror films where all the scientists were mad. What they were mad about, I have no idea.
I remember her, or more specifically, that super sexy white bathing suit.
Yeah, that suit was a bit of a point of contention at the time, even though seems more than tame these days. Back then, it was considered pretty darn racy.
Yeah, her legs showed.
Now let's dive into the creature. The very first actor considered to play the creature was Glenn Strange, who was not only a former stuntman who played Frankenstein in 3 different Universal films, but he wasn't much of a swimmer, so he turned the part down. Enter Rico Browning. Plans were being made to shoot the sequences in Florida. Really unique the way he got the part of the swimming creature. He went to the airport and picked up the director along with a cameraman and then drove them down to the location and was asked, simply for test footage purposes, to do some swimming under the water past the camera. Then, a few weeks later, the director called him and personally told him, "Hey, we like the way you swim. How would you like to be the creature from the Black Lagoon?"
Certainly beats hanging out in the hot tub all day with your agent.
Tell me about it, not to mention the horrifying casting couches.
I don't know, I always found them quite comfortable.
You and Harvey Weinstein.
Interesting. The look of the creature overall almost ended up being completely different to what we finally saw on the screen. The head of the studio, Ed Mull, had a completely different vision for what the creature should look like. More eel-like, less gills, maybe with a little more human-looking face. So, since he was the head of the studio, they created a creature suit and went out to do some test shots, but ultimately the decision was made that this particular look of the creature didn't quite work out all that well, and this is really interesting. The guy who sculpted it, Chris Mueller, claimed that even though they didn't use this particular head for the film, they might have eventually used it in a sequel as a female version of the creature, but of course, that never happened. 90% of this film was shot on the back lot of Universal City in California, with the on-water sequences filmed at Park Lake on the Universal back lot again. This was the first unit stuff, the stuff with all the primary actors, with all the underwater footage being shot by the second unit in Florida, both units basically filming at exactly the same time.
That would mean they would need 2 different creature costumes.
Right you are, Sparky, and indeed they did. The above-ground creature was played by 24-year-old Universal contract player Ben Chapman, and even though the script said that the creature was way over 6 feet, like 6'5" to be exact, Chapman claims that after he was in the suit with the head on, he was more like 6'7", while Rico Browning, the guy who was the swimming creature, was considerably shorter.
Okay, we really need to address the elephant in the room. Bud Westmore of the Westmore Makeup Dynasty.
Yeah, kind of a sad story, to be honest. At least back then, Bud Westmore replaced the extremely talented and legendary makeup artist Jack Pierce, who was responsible for a ton of Universal makeups, including Frankenstein. Anyway, Westmore had a real tendency to want to hog the creative spotlight. Anytime the press or somebody important was in the special effects department, he would literally scoot everybody else out of the room so that he alone could be photographed with the creations. But in the end, the truth comes out with the extremely talented, not to mention very attractive Millicent Patrick, a designer for Universal who was solely responsible for designing every aspect of the creature. And boy, did she love that creature. It was kind of her design child, she used to say. She even went on tour to promote the film because she was so personable and photogenic, again, even though at the time her contributions were pretty much buried by Bud Westmore.
Bud. It's always a guy named Bud.
Not Bud Light?
This episode is sponsored once again by Raycon, and okay, we're going to cut right to the chase on this one. I've been using Raycon products for almost 2 years now. I've got their original earbuds, which I love. I've got their headphones, which are unbelievably comfortable and great for travel, and now they've got something new. I'm super excited about their brand new Essential Open earbuds, which keep your ears open while at the same time delivering that incredible Raycon crystal clear sound. Super comfortable to wear. They actually sit outside your ear canal so you can stay aware of other stuff going on around you, like traffic or coworkers or even the wife telling you it's time to take out the garbage. All of this without sacrificing any audio quality. The design is super lightweight. They fit secure so they won't slip out while working out at the gym or taking long walks. An incredible 36 hours of battery life for all day non-stop listening. And the best part about this company is that they provide the sound quality that rivals the big expensive premium audio brands, but at just about half the price. They also offer a 30-day happiness guarantee, so if you don't love them, just send them back. So why wait? Simply click the link in the description box below or go to buyraycon.com/Dan Monroe Open for 30% off. So do yourself a favor and give them a try. I did. I love them, and more than likely, you will too. Now, since we had 2 different actors playing the same part, one with a slightly rounder head while the other had a slightly more narrow head, 2 complete creature costumes had to be created, with full body molds being made of the actors, with a crew of about 9 guys working on these suits. There was a ton of work that went into these costumes, way more than one guy could handle. So one guy would work on the arms, another on the chest. Chris Mueller sculpted the head, and it's really kind of interesting because the shapes of the heads of the 2 actors were different, so the 2 creature heads were also different. And if you look really closely, you can spot the differences, but obviously these 2 suits were never seen on screen at the same time, so audiences were thankfully none the wiser. Mega famous prop collector Bob Burns actually has the last remaining creature head that was cast from the original Ben Chapman molds, the land creature version, and the body was recreated by Bill Malone, who, as you may recall, owned the original Robbie the Robot costume for years.
Costume? Indeed. Well, I never.
The creature's suit was a one-piece body stocking, and elements of the exterior costume were then placed on top, building it up little by little, taking about 3 hours to get into, really. And it's very, very interesting. Both actors, while filming, had to really watch their weight. They couldn't gain weight or lose weight, or the suits just wouldn't fit right.
Got to love the bright red lips on the creature.
Evidently, the creature was in need of industrial strength chapstick.
Well, that was actually just the idea of the promotions department and people doing the posters and publicity photos, when in reality the costume was not a bright green at all, but a very dull moss color, and the lips actually were not red at all. Fun fact, there was also a third special head that was used specifically in the shots where the gills on each side of the head would open and close with air tubes running up into the mask filled with bladders and controlled by off-screen special effects people.
Okay, but what about all those extremely intimate underwater shots of the creature toying with our heroine?
Yeah, about that, there's been a lot of Hollywood speculation that the entire underwater choreographed sequence had sexual overtones. I mean, obviously, as a 7-year-old, I never really noticed it, and I'm not saying that I really notice it now, but there are some people who believe that those overtones are absolutely there and were always intended to be there. Fun fact, in the mid-1970s, the Post Company put posters of the creature in selected boxes of Sugar Crisp cereal. Pretty collectible today if you can find one in decent shape. And what monstrous childhood household would be complete without the old creature from the Black Lagoon Aurora model kit from 1963? So popular, in fact, that it's been reissued many times over the years, and these days goes for quite a pretty penny if you can find one. The extremely dramatic musical score to this film, in addition to some stock library music, was original music written by 3 different composers: Henry Mancini of Pink Panther fame, Hans J. Salter, and Herman Stein, who wrote the music for This Island Earth, with the most memorable of the musical cues, or hooks, literally being played almost non-stop throughout the course of this entire picture. You know it. Later on, audiences did have a chance to enjoy the creature on at least a couple of television shows after the movie series concluded. The creature appeared as Uncle Gilbert on The Munsters, and keep in mind, none of this costume was original to the movies. The mask was, from what I understand, simply a Don Post Studios mask, but this is interesting and really super cool. There was an episode of the TV show Night Gallery called Pickman's Model, where legendary makeup artist John Chambers, the Planet of the Apes, John Chambers, was in charge of making a new creature for that episode and used the actual creature molds that obviously still existed at that point to make the skin for this new creature. Check out these awesome photographs of John Chambers himself with some of the actual creature from the Black Lagoon molds. I mean, come on. Seriously, how cool is that? But sadly, from what I understand, nothing whatsoever exists today from the original 2 creature costumes, or even the original molds for that matter, but I did stumble across this photo taken years ago, which some claim is the very last existing photo of one of the 2 creature costumes. You know, this film has boats, guys with harpoons, and even a big, gnarly, fishy creature. And some might say it's a movie about fishing. So if any of you guys are into fishing, I'd like to take literally just a second to tell you about my friend Luke Angling from the UK. He's got a marvelous fishing channel. I've been helping him out quite a bit to get it launched. So if any of you guys are into big-time fishing, check out Luke's YouTube channel. Link in the description.
Okay, but what about all the reboots, remakes, and God help us reimaginings?
Well, there were 2 official sequels. Revenge of the Creature in 1955, which was also filmed and released in 3D, hoping that it would revive the format, and The Creature Walks Among Us in 1956, filmed in regular 2D. And this is interesting. In 1982, director John Landis wanted Jack Arnold to once again direct a remake of the film, but because they wanted to do it in 3D, the remake was canceled to avoid clashing with Jaws 3D.
Yes, Jaws 3D, cinema at its best.
In 1992, John Carpenter wanted to develop a remake at Universal with Rick Baker hired on to create the 3D model of the creature, but that particular project just never got greenlit. In 1995, Universal Pictures offered Peter Jackson the opportunity to direct a remake, but he said no because he was working on his reimagining of King Kong.
Wow, a lot of missed opportunities here, I reckon.
That's right, Tex, but wait. There's more. In 1996, Ivan Reitman was planning to direct a remake, but that never happened. And then in 2009, Universal actually produced a live rock and roll stage production of The Creature at Universal Hollywood that ran for a very short time, starring, get this, Gil as the Creature.
What these studios won't do for a buck.
In 2012, Universal announced another remake simply entitled The Black Lagoon, but that was canceled. In 2002, director Del Toro, who was a huge fan of the original film, was looking to direct a remake, but after Universal rejected his concept, he later went on in 2017 to direct the highly beloved yet somewhat controversial film The Shape of Water.
Isn't that the one where the sea monster has romantic involvements with a human?
That's the one, and honestly, it's an absolutely brilliant piece, not only because of the great writing and the directing, but because it's a film made in generally modern times with a man in a costume. I mean, holy Jiminy Christmas, when was the last time we ever saw that?
We're seeing it currently. The role of Dan Monroe is now being portrayed by a midget.
Now, for those of you who would like to own your very own full-size Creature from the Black Lagoon, well, that will soon be a reality. My friends over at BLOK 4 Studios will be offering next summer a full-size creature with interchangeable arms over 6 feet tall. Anyone interested can contact BLOK 4 about this release. Link in the description. Creature from the Black Lagoon may have been the very last Universal monster movie ever made, but has certainly remained one of the most beloved franchise entries into classic horror monster movies, a staple of our black and white childhood 3D memories, forever living on and taking its place among other great and not so great horror monster movies of days gone by, including Alien, The Blob, John Carpenter's The Thing, Zombie, The Food of the Gods, The Fly, Fright Night, and so many more. We could be here all day, but that, my friends, I really hope you guys enjoyed that deep dive all about the Creature from the Black Lagoon, and if you did and you like this kind of stuff, please consider subscribing to the channel. I've got a whole bunch of new videos coming up really soon that I know you guys are just gonna dig.
And if you'd like to help support the channel, you can always buy us a coffee. Link in the description.
And please feel free to stop back anytime as we together continue the conversation on movies, music, and monsters. Hey my friends, Dan Monroe here from Movies, Music, and Monsters, and stand by for a very special announcement. As you may recall, last April, Flights of Fantasy presented a special screening of the amazing classic sci-fi film Forbidden Planet, and yes, I know that screening was billed as a once-in-a-lifetime event, but as we all know, anything is possible in science fiction, so through the screen's new miracle process of lapse-orama, the powers that be have obtained yet another once-in-a-lifetime screening of this groundbreaking film in CinemaScope and striking Eastman color.
You only live twice, Mr. Bond.
The Frida Cinema, the premier art house venue of Southern California, will be your host for this amazing restored print presented in DCP projection.
I wanna go. I wanna go. Please, Robbie, I'll be your best friend.
Well, maybe. If you drink all your deutronium and stop calling me Will Robinson.
It's a deal. And hey, Robbie, are you going to be there to sign autographs?
If only I could, but I have a conflict that day.
Busy washing your dome?
I'll split the difference. I'll run a bit of my hilarious stand-up routine about what really happened behind the scenes of the Forbidden Planet. A real crowd pleaser.
Don't believe your own hype.
Now, to make this twice-in-a-lifetime event even that much more spectacular, the festivities will start off with 2 restored George Pal puppetoons, courtesy of producer-director Arnold Leibovitz, who will also be there in person as the evening's master of ceremonies. How cool is that?
Truly frigid.
The last show sold out in just a couple of days, so don't let any grass grow under your C-57D and get your seats while you can. This is sure to be another very quick sellout.
Remember, this November 15th, 7 p.m. at the Frida Theater in Santa Ana, California. Just a few clicks from Disneyland. So bring the kiddies and take in the House of Mouse after you are dazzled by Forbidden Planet on the big screen. Tickets are only $16. Seating is unreserved and first come, first serve.
Monroe. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yep, I will definitely let them know.
I wonder who that was.
Wouldn't you like to know?
Well, this just in, Robbie, B9, and yours truly will appear on screen at the Frida via satellite to entertain the troops. That right there is worth the price of admission alone, so get your tickets today. Links in the description, and we'll see you there.
Who was that anyway? Dan answers to no man. You don't think that was Dan's mentor, Fred Barton, do you?
All will be revealed at the Frida.
movies.
Music and monsters.